Morning guys, welcome back to the Ahn Rho Project, the self-therapeutic multimedia project for me to solve the problems and challenges in my life, as well as a self-improvement process for me to reach the heights, goals, and ambitions that I have set for myself. And so, of course, what you see is what you get. Take a look at the live stream, take a look in the title, what you see is what you get. We are doing the live stream, the first of 2 live streams on, well, what you look at that. It's kind of like an Inception, right? So basically, this is going to be a text stream, very heavily focused on all of the production and well, really there's not too much to say about production usually, because if you can't tell, I'm using sort of welfare gear right now. You see these Dollarama clamps, and then you take a look at the title. Like I said, what do we have to cover is in the title. We have some content stuff about what I'm going to do about putting acknowledgements to certain people who have contributed to live streams or content inside a description. I'm going to talk about trying to fix something having to do with speech to text. So that's why you see in the title Windows 10 and Google Docs speech to text, a little bit of troubleshooting, some errors. We'll talk a little bit about, I made a big mistake. There's another thing I missed amongst trying to manage everything. There's actually supposed to be a little bit of a snippet down here that I think is missing now. It's a little photograph, a screenshot, that I'm supposed to include just right above my logo. And I've spoken about that before. It's supposed to be a little reminder of what it is I have to cover with each live stream, because then I include what's in the title actually on camera, so that I actually have an idea of what I'm covering. So that being said, that's kind of the stuff that we're going to cover in the first live stream today. But of course, the Ahn Rho Project has an introduction, and we'll get to that at the very end. I just want to get to the meat, the core of this live stream. So the first thing I want to cover, obviously, is that we've been working on a new introduction, as I just mentioned right now. It'll probably happen in the last 5 minutes or so. What I want to cover for now is just the production stuff. So obviously, I mentioned maybe a couple of days ago, 3-4 days ago, there was someone else who, we reached a certain milestone on one of the platforms. It's just something that was an added bonus. Typically, I don't really keep track of how many, views or people who are subscribed. That's not really of concern to me. But someone who did subscribe was a real person and not a bot. And we actually got hit up in touch, got over on Discord, and he was very, very helpful and just a great person overall. And I took a look at his stuff, and I thought that his channel was great, and he's doing his own tech reviews and kind of stuff like that. And that's completely different from what I do on my channel, right? We have completely different sorts of content. And I just wanted to shout out Serge. And at that time, I mentioned, of course, that by mentioning his stuff on stream, I felt although I was giving verbal gratitude and just saying that he's great and he's been of great help, I also wanted to be able to put some sort of physical description inside the description, and that's something I haven't gotten to until I think hopefully over this weekend. Right now, after this live stream ends, I'll probably work on that. Just adding a small a small space in my YouTube descriptions or whatever Facebook descriptions specifically for acknowledging and just giving links to to other creators or artists who actually drop by. And so that would be very helpful. It'd be easy for me to have that template worked out. Right now I have one that is at the very bottom of my bio and description. You can find that right here on my live streams. At the very bottom, it does have some references, but that's very outdated, and so I need to update that and incorporate that as a part of the more major section of my descriptions. So that's one thing I have to do. Another thing in terms of tech and production, you haven't noticed, for the past 6 months, if not more than that, probably for the whole year, maybe 6 months or so, I've been mostly live streaming off camera, and that's very different from what I'm used to. So I have right here, you can see, typically I actually maybe back in August, so dial it back to maybe halfway into COVID-19. I don't know how if you guys have that far back in memory. Now it seems like it's such a long time ago, but needless to say, I used to actually live stream in front of the camera, and I want to get into that a little bit back, at least show part of my body, because usually I'm not actually comfortable showing my face still, but that's all right. That's just one of those things that you've got to work on eventually. But nowadays, I actually do it behind, because if you take a look at my room, I have mentioned, let's move around a little bit, right? We have so much to cover that involves movement. And because of that, I'm not actually able to be in front of the camera all the time. I actually have to cover, the focus is on the objects, the physical possessions, and so on and so forth, relating to work or business or people and so on and so forth. And that's something that I want to get back into. Speaking on that point as well, I also can sort of just jump right into this one. And I have my laptop open. I usually don't do this, right? I usually don't have my laptop open. But what you can see right now is that this is YouTube Studio, if you are familiar with this. And so if you ever have a channel, that's what it looks like. And the thing is, I actually haven't been, this is something new for me, all right? Typically, I don't go to YouTube Studio very often. I've noticed that for almost 2 months now, that using the software that is on my phone right now, and it is a free software, and for a free app, really. I believe it's a South Korean company by the name Prism. You can check that out yourself. But needless to say, right here, I typically have issues where I would start a live stream and then it would say that I have to set up my live stream on YouTube Studio first. And so for about 2-3 months, I just ignored that, and I would set it up on my phone after they gave me that warning. So it would be 2 live streams. One would be dysfunctional. It would be like 2-3 seconds, and then it would stop. And then I'd get this goddamn notification about my live stream being, it's not set up on YouTube Studio. And I would click OK, and then the app would just lead me to YouTube Studio, and then I set up there. And so I have one empty stream that's really just garbage. So what I've done is I've been testing for the past 3-4 days, and it works. Basically, on my laptop, I'll have YouTube Studio set up already on the page, and then on my phone, I will start my live streams. And so the way that works is, obviously, then I don't have that extra first live stream for 2-3 seconds that just ends up being complete garbage. And that's probably really bad for SEO as well, to have 2 live streams, one that's garbage, one that's literally just 2-3 seconds and cuts off, and then the actual full live stream. That's a lot of that's really going to hurt your your search dynamics, especially online, given how technology works and the algorithms work. So with that being said, that's something that I've been able to work on. I've actually tested now using YouTube Studio, which is right before you right here. So it's very interesting. You see me, like I said, I begin a live stream, inception, right? Live stream within a live stream within a live stream. You can see it right there. So that's that. Okay, so we talked about YouTube Studio. Okay, that's in the title. We talked a little bit about wanting to get a new introduction, including things, especially about I really want to make the introduction more brief, more concise, but also add some variety and schedule the introduction for certain days and so on and so forth. Not to have to do the introduction every single day. I'm stammering right now. There's too many things to cover. Especially, like I said, a main thing that I also mentioned was that there's supposed to be a little screenshot here, just like in my previous live streams. You check on hashtag #AhnRhoH_RHO on Twitch, YouTube, wherever, you will find that the past 2-3 days I have been experimenting putting this little screenshot down here of the titles, and so then I could refer to it while I'm live streaming. Typically, I don't have the content written down. I don't really have time to write things down because that just adds more inventory and paperwork for me to have to record. Instead, I like to do things digitally. And that's helpful because then it's very easy to just copy and paste the information. It's much more efficient. And so efficiency is key if you want to manage a business anyways, especially with this project, as well as full-time work, as well as caregiving for, severely unhealthy or diseased guardians and so on and so forth, and all that kind of stuff, and taking care of your own self. So at the end of the day, less time for more is better. And I don't have the screenshot here. So YouTube Studio, we talked about the screenshot of the titles. We talked about an introduction and scheduling and trying to make an updated version of it. I believe it's version 25 now. How many iterations, I don't really know. And we also spoke a little bit about something else that I missed. I don't actually know. Right, standing in front of the camera and being on cam versus being behind it. Some other stuff, there's some materials here. You can see the clamps right in front of in the thumbnail as well. We have these 2 clamps here. I got them really cheap from Dollarama, of course. I used to use this kind of stuff all the time to do the live streams downstairs for the past 2 years that I've been testing around and playing around with live streaming and making videos and all that kind of stuff, especially when it came to physical items as a part of the sub-series named Item Catalog sub-series of the Ahn Rho Project, which I was working heavily on at the time. It has largely been sort of discontinued and melded into the other sub-series, such as BDMP, standing for Basics Maintenance. That's something that we've been working on. If you take a look at the title, you see that rose at the very end of the live stream titles. That's basically all the different sub-series that are included with each live stream. Specifically, the rose stands for BDMP. and it includes a lot of the basics of inventory management as well. And so, some sub-series have been discontinued and melded and merged together into the more modern ones that I have, the more comprehensive ones, the more efficient and more functional, more useful ones that I have on stream. And so that's sort of what's happened, and I no longer use these clamps as often as I would like. I think that I will start using them very soon because, like I said, I do want to stand in front of the camera, and it just helps to have both hands free. Now, so that's another thing, equipment, right? So we covered about maybe 5, 6 different things. There's still 2 more things I believe I want to cover. Right, so the last one I think I see in the title, it says something along the lines of Windows 10 mic, and it's cross-hatched with Google. It's tied with Google Docs speech to text, so STT. Just like think of one of my favorite channels on YouTube. I don't know for any of you guys watching right now, Radio TTS. I am a very, I suppose, a somber personality sometimes, and I guess everybody is. You have your good times, you have your bad times. But needless to say, Radio TTS just reminds you of Ask Reddit TTS. All those TTS channels go from text to speech, and I figured one thing I always wanted to do was to have dictation, to have transcription of everything that I say. It's much easier and much more efficient. I just noticed something's on the floor. That's my mask. That's fuck. Okay, odd interruption there. But anyways, back to speech to text. All right, speech to text. So I've always wanted to just have dictation of everything. That way, I don't have to actually write. Think of, it's important to plan what you have to cover before stream. I've always known that. That's kind of basic common sense. Everybody knows that. But of course, time crunch and then everything coming together. And if you haven't gotten things down in time management and prioritization due to you just having a bunch of, maybe you've been in poverty or have domestic household issues or a lot of harassment and abuse or all sorts of things that life throws against you. Maybe you've had a hard time putting even food on the table, financial matters, you are severely physically ill, maybe mentally ill, all sorts of different things in life, just shit back to back to back to back. And sometimes it's just as simple as not having a coach or a mentor and no role models. And that all these things I mentioned right now, I guess I'm mentioning it off the back of my hand so nonchalantly because it is very personal. Yes, most of these things. That's the kind of background I'm coming from. All right, very ghetto, very low income, it's a hellhole. So I'm learning everything. I'm going from rags to riches here, and I don't have the principles of a successful person. And so with that being said, it really digs back onto the whole, I don't have. Sometimes I just don't plan my content, and that's very difficult, especially like today. Even this live stream, a lot of it's kind of just me not just working off the fly, with whatever's in my head and my memory. I'm working with my own smarts here, and that's not the best solution. Now, with that being said, what does that have to do with Windows 10 and Google Docs? So obviously, I tried to. There was this time. Okay, so I mentioned Serge, and thank you, Serge, once again, because he did get me to an audiobook, right? And we were talking about, we were sharing all this kind of stuff. And I mentioned that he's basically someone who actually, I'm going to be working, just having some conversations with him as well. Not collab, just talking, just being friends here and learning how to do this whole YouTube thing, but he's already well off. But the interesting thing is giving me an audiobook, and I thought that maybe it would be a good idea to basically convert the audiobook into a text file. And of course, you can probably get that on Amazon or something like that, but for me, again, I'm not going to make that kind of purchase. And so I tried to do that, and it turns out that I could also maybe use that. Of course, I wanted to. For the past couple of years, I was thinking of using speech to text. So no better time than now, given, again, thank you, Serge, but it just brought it up to memory that basically I want to convert whatever I say on live streams into a text format and then be able to manipulate all the information into some sort of blog post or at least a quick snippet. It's much more easier to do that when, just automatically converts. Now, there's a lot of troubleshooting to that, and I'll get to that probably in the second live stream since I'm short on time here right now. Needless to say, it didn't really work out, and then I had to find the right language, converting to United States, downloading a Canadian package, a language, and then working that out. It didn't really work, but we'll cover that in the next live stream. This is the Ahn Rho Project. I'll see you in about 10 minutes when we cover logistics.